All right. So for the part 2 of assignment 4 is your Flipgrid story practice, okay? So number 1, practice telling your story and use the story structure worksheet you just filled out to help you. Tips for storytellers. Number 1, you need to tell stories that you like. Number 2, take the time to prepare and practice. Number 3, do not hesitate to remove the slow parts of your story. Practice pacing and staying within your time limits. Number 4, use a strong and confident voice. Number 5, use eye contact with your listeners, and in this case, that is the camera, right? Think about your body and choose the gestures you will use to tell your story. Watch yourself in the camera and see how those gestures read. Now, after you have practiced performing your story with your story structure worksheet, number 2, part 2 of this is watch someone else's story and give them feedback on how they can make their story better. Again, if you are one of the first people to post your story, you may have to come back and do this part of the assignment later. All right, so rules for giving feedback. Number 1, you tell them 2 things they've done well and 1 thing they can improve upon. Or if you want to do more, you can tell them 4 things they've done well and 2 things they can improve upon. But for every 1 thing they improve on, I need you to give them 2 positive things that they did well, okay? Number 2, stick to the stuff we talked about so far in drama. So vocal variation with how can you use your pitch, high and low, how can you use your speed or tempo, which is fast and slow, and how can you use your volume, loud, which parts can be loud and which parts can be soft. And so that's our vocal variation. And then you can also talk about story structure. What points in the story did you follow really well and which points were a little confusing? So number 3 is be kind. Be kind and helpful with your feedback. 4 is helpful feedback includes your perspective as a listener. You're not directing them. You're not telling them how to do their story, but you are telling them how their story made you as a listener feel. Examples. I really liked this part of your story, but when you got to the part about the dog, I got a little confused and I didn't know what was happening there. Or another example would be, I loved how expressive your voice was when you said the witch's lines. Could you do that again and give the other character a voice too? For the storyteller, part of performing is learning how to hear and take feedback about your performance. Listen to the people who have commented on your videos. What did they like about your story? Keep that. What parts were confusing to them? Think about how you could say what happened so that it's a little less confusing. Don't take your feedback personally and don't get discouraged. Even the most seasoned storytellers have to go through this process of feedback and revision so that they can tell the best story possible. And lastly, keep practicing. You are awesome.